Well, if you are a SnowRunner player and you're excited about Phase 4, we could be seeing a lot more, a lot sooner than we all expected, based on a recent statement made by Asorikin in the official SnowRunner Discord. We could be getting a Phase 4 PTS as soon as next week. And if you're not sure what PTS stands for, that means Public Test Server, and that is basically a secondary part of the game available for those who play on PC to test new features. Now, I, for one, am extremely excited about this, and I'm going to be bringing you as many updates as I possibly can as we get closer, but without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the video. So first of all, what is the statement we are talking about? Well, we have that statement right here, and it says you should have Phase 4 on PTS by the end of the next week, I think. Now, that is not an official confirmation of a date, but that's a pretty optimistic estimation. Now, what's cool about this is the fact that there are so many new features that we are expecting to see in Phase 4. One of those being new environment types, and other of those being new gameplay mechanics. And really, from what we've known from the very beginning, Phase 4 is going to be sort of a total overhaul expansion and not just a standard release phase. So what does that mean? Well, they haven't really given us all that much info on it yet. There have been hintings here and there that there could be more seismic vibrator gameplay in Phase 4, but again, we don't know that for an actual fact, because those, we remember using those in the original maps in the base game, but they could end up being reintegrated into a Phase 4 release. So once again, who knows? The missions with the seismic device were very odd, and there weren't all that many of them on a grand scale, but let me know in the comments down below if you enjoyed those missions or not. I found them to be pretty interesting, even though they were a bit different from the normal type of gameplay that we are used to seeing in SnowRunner. I thought they brought a interesting sort of discovery-based dynamic, and they made you drive to areas where you otherwise wouldn't normally drive, which I think is always a good thing, and it really helps expand the scope of the maps that we're dealing with. Now, let me know in the comments down below what you think Phase 4 could have in store for us, because once again, we know it could be a new environment type and new gameplay dynamics and vehicles and stuff like that that we haven't seen before. So that leaves the door open for so many different things that it's incredible to think that we could literally be about a week away from actually being able to show you guys gameplay of that right here on the channel. And believe me, not only will there be video coverage, but there will also be stream coverage of Phase 4 whenever it drops on the public test server. Absolutely 100%. Now, personally, I would love to see more heavy haul gameplay. I always love the heavy haul focused gameplay, but I would also love to see transportation of new cargo types that we haven't really seen before. Like, for example, I would love the mechanic of loading like loose boulders into dump trucks, or maybe large mining machines. Stuff like that would be very, very, very interesting to see. I don't really know if the game's engine is capable of doing something like that, but at the end of the day, we saw a little bit of something similar in Phase 2, but they definitely left the door open to be able to take those concepts much further. Now, the only thing about Phase 2 is the fact that the cat in Phase 2 was at times a little bit cumbersome and a little bit big for the maps in that particular environment. So I do hope that if they decide to go the route of large vehicles again, I really do hope that they have certain avenues of the map that support the really large vehicles a little bit better, because once again, there were a couple of pathways that would normally be used as regular roads with the other trucks, but when you're going to use that gigantic cat with the huge trailer, you really had to be careful which way you went, because you could really mess your day up real quick in that thing if you went a certain direction that maybe wasn't quite as suitable for a large vehicle. The only problem is there were very few sections of those maps that were really suitable for large vehicles, or at least vehicles that large. I'm not talking about your standard large vehicles. I'm not even talking about, you know, the Azov Antarctic. I mean, that's big, but it's not necessarily as big as that cat was with the mining trailer. Not anywhere close. Now, when it comes to specialty vehicles, I really did love the way they integrated the telehandler into Phase 2 during the Yukon, and that vehicle, I think, could possibly usher in some more odd, different new vehicles, because we never thought we were going to get anything along the lines of a forklift. So maybe someday we'll get something along the lines of an excavator. That would be absolutely incredible, to have excavator gameplay where you were literally digging stuff out of the ground and loading it into a dump truck. I doubt that that's going to be possible, but who knows what could happen later on down the road in the further DLC cycle of this game. And that might not even happen in Phase 4. That could happen like way later on down the road. Who knows? But, you know, if you had told me back at the beginning of this game's release that there was going to be a forklift, I'd be like, I don't know about it. So I'm kind of going off of the same theory there, with the potential for maybe excavators at some point in the future. But the only thing with that is that they would have to be wheeled excavators and not necessarily tracked excavators, which tracked excavators would be a lot cooler, but the problem is the physics system in this game has a really hard time with tracks, and there are wheeled excavators out there that you could potentially use, but once again, I think if you were going to use really big ones, you would have to have that track system working, and at this moment in time, it doesn't really seem like there's any chance of getting tracks in this game anytime soon, but I will of course keep you updated on that, because tracked vehicles would be awesome. And I'm sure that there are going to be some comments about, well, hey, there's this mod that's tracked, or there's this mod that's tracked, and technically, yes, you're right, but there's only so far you can go with that, because really what a lot of the mods do is they take a bunch of wheels and tires and smash them together and phase them into each other to create a quote-unquote, you can't see my air quotes right now, but quote-unquote tracks. And it works okay for what it is, but I definitely think that, you know, if they were doing it from a developer standpoint, they would probably want to flesh that system out a little further before they turned it into a full-fledged system. But in any case, I, for one, cannot wait to see where Phase 4 goes, and also what kind of vehicles we can get into, what kind of scenarios we can get into with them, what kind of trouble we can get them into. And you have to go into a new phase thinking, yes, I am excited to be getting stuck again, because we all know that whenever we dive into a new phase, we're gonna get stuck. We're gonna flip stuff. We're going to roll stuff over. We're gonna lose cargo. We're gonna make all those mistakes. But the thing is, making all of those mistakes is half the fun of the game, because then you get to fix them, and then you get even greater satisfaction when you get to your destination. So that's why this game is so much fun to me, because rather than getting frustrated when something like a rollover happens, it's almost like, oh, the game has already presented me with another challenge on top of the challenge that I already had. And for some people that's frustrating, but for me it's like it's kind of an element of fun, actually, because then you get this, like I said before, you get this new challenge on top of the challenge you already had, and I think that really goes a long way to making the game a lot of fun. And not only are we going to have a lot of new vehicles that are going to be within the vanilla release of Phase 4, but think about how mods could potentially integrate into this new phase, because we've seen, as new phases have released, we've seen mods release that are sort of centered around the new phase itself. Now, not all mods are like that, definitely not. You know, a lot of mods, like for example this third gen Dodge I'm driving right now, really are just kind of their own thing. They're just based on the fact that it's cool to have a third-gen Dodge in the game, but there have been other mods along the release of Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 that have actually kind of geared themselves towards the gameplay style that's going on in that particular phase, and so with a new phase on the horizon, I'm really excited to see what mods actually emerge due to the gameplay dynamics put forward by the new phase itself. But with all that being said, let me know in the comments section down below what you are most excited to see in Phase 4 and some of the scenarios that you're most excited to attempt in Phase 4. And I know for one that if it's anything to do with proper heavy hauling, I cannot wait to see what my buddy Diesel does when we get into multiplayer, because as you guys know, whenever Diesel and I get into multiplayer on the streams, things get real crazy real quick, and trucks start flipping over and flying out of the woods, and toppling over the tops of hills, but yet somehow we still make it to our destination. So I'm really excited to see how these elements of the game not only blend into the single player experience, but blend into the multiplayer experience as well. Now, real quick to touch on that side trail on Truck Night is actually a lot more difficult than you might think, and if you haven't attempted it yet, I highly recommend attempting it, but make sure you take a capable vehicle, and I had to do a little bit of a rollover just to do it. But if you guys enjoyed, make sure to let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments, hit that like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys next time. Talk to y'all later.